Hey, everybody. Welcome to February 25th, 2025. Steve, can you believe it? We are almost 2 months into this brand new year.
Amazing.
The
Just
year
flat amazing.
2025, Anno Domini, the year of our Lord. I can't believe we're 25 years into the next century.
Yep. Yep. Incredible.
That's crazy.
Incredible.
Do you remember the show Home Improvement, Steve?
Yeah. Yeah. Great show.
So they just released that on Netflix. That was a show I really enjoyed watching growing up. Sandra did too. Well, the boys caught wind of it. They started watching it, and now we're watching this show, baked up in 1990, 91, 92. We're watching it together, and it's taken me back, and it is so funny to see
Ah,
how different things are, but how the same people are. It's crazy. I'm really, really enjoying it. And you know what? What we've done this program now since 2017, 2018, something like that. And
wow.
as much as the world has changed, folks just wanting to get out and enjoy a good ride, enjoy a good drive or pack. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really what they're after. And it's the same show every single week, but it seems to be so much fun and it flies by faster and faster
Ooh.
every
Yep.
week. Ain't that the truth?
It does. It just flat goes by. I told my wife, I looked up and I said, it's 1 o'clock already today. What in the world? What I've been doing? It's amazing.
You know what, though, Steve? For those who know Jesus, this is the worst it's ever going to be. We've got eternity and it just gets better and better and better and better.
Yep. Yes, sirree. That's
How
right.
about that?
Exactly.
That's right. That's right. Well, hey, just because it's only getting better and better and better in Christ doesn't mean we can't make it better and better and better right here, right now for folks who are riding, driving, packing, all the different things you can do with the mule and the donkey. We're going to talk about mules and donkeys for the next hour. I've got a collection of questions that have come in that we're going to put in front of Steve. Maybe I'll take a couple of them. And then, folks, if you've got any questions, we'd love to hear from you. My name is Dave. This is Steve Edwards. Every week we get together to talk about mules and donkeys. The thing we want more than anything else with this program is for you to enjoy the break from life, for you to enjoy
Yeah.
getting out, enjoying nature, enjoying creation. These animals were created to be productive, to
Hmm.
benefit you, to enjoy the earth, to be put to work. So we want to help you do that to the maximum effect. John 10:10, come that you might have life and live it to the fullest. We want you to have life and live it to the fullest. And well, that comes with Jesus, but the mule and the donkey, they were right there underneath Jesus, matter of fact. He rode that donkey into Jerusalem, and we want you to have as smooth as a ride as our Lord and Savior did. Steve, how has it been since last week? What you been up to?
Well, just repairing, doing things. I've been getting my motorhome already. Actually, it's Susan's motorhome. Getting it all ready for the trip because we're going to drive from Arizona to Alabama, and then after Alabama, going over to Columbia. So we got several days of trip ahead of us. So I'm kind of preparing little things, doing things, make sure everything's just right. And it's just the same thing, Dave, as if you're getting your mule ready because when you're preparing, you're getting ready to go on a trip, you're thinking about all those other things, but you need to think about your mule, and you should be thinking about your mule a week before you get ready to go on a trip. And we're going to talk about that in that webinar we're coming up at April 16th.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, folks. I'm going to get a link out there. We've got our next webinar coming up April 16th. It's going to be a lot of fun, but you don't have to wait until April 16th to get a full dose of Steve Edwards and the Mule Man magic. Matter of fact, Steve just said it. He's going to be in Alabama the end of March. I put a link in the comment section. He's going for the Seven Springs Mule Ride, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Check it out. Get the details. There's still enough time to plan. There's still enough time for you to drive out there, meet up, and enjoy the time. And if you're thinking, you know what, March is a little bit too quick, do you have anything in April? Well, by golly, I'm glad you asked because Steve is going to Tennessee in April. Columbia, Tennessee for Mule Day. And I put the link right here in the comment section. It's going to be a lot of fun. They've got the full schedule released there, so you can see exactly when Steve is going to be presented. Of course, Steve will be there walking around outside of the times when he's presenting. And if you see him, say hello, come up, tell him about your mule, get a picture, ask questions, whatever. Steve wants to say hello to you, and he's not gonna say, yeah, get your picture. I'm gonna say it for him. Go up there, say hello. If you want a picture, if you want to ask a question, he's ready for it. It's going to be a lot of fun. But Steve, we're not here for you today. We're here for Sherman. He's watching from Norman, Oklahoma, where it's 80 degrees. We're here for Polly, Barnesville, Minnesota, plus 40. We're having a heat wave. Riding tomorrow. We'll see how Merlin's doing with this heat wave. Dave O'Brien, West Texas. We're here for him today. 77 degrees and nice. He says, I finally got my mules moved. Now I have to finish my stalls. I'll send pictures when I get that done in a few weeks. That'll be fun. I know folks will be excited to see that. I know we'll be excited to see it too. Merlin, there he goes. Sunny and warm, 39 degrees. So Merlin's riding that heat wave too. Daniel is watching from 85 in sunny Mesa. I can confirm Daniel is not lying. It is sunny. It is in the 80s. He's got our first question for the day. He says, when I put the Surcingle and the Martingale on my mule, he tends to just stand in a corner for 2 hours instead of moving around with it. What should I do differently?
Okay, so if he's standing in a corner, is he moving his mouth a lot, or is his mouth quiet? Where is his head in proportion with his back? Where is that? So answer those two questions for me.
All right, we'll keep saying hello as we wait for Daniel to chime back in. Marcia is watching from a warmer and sunny Virginia. Dave O'Brien says, Steve, I received your hat and the Mule Riders Martingale for Danielle, the American Mule and Bluegrass Festival raffle mule. Thank you for the knives. You've been sending stuff to Dave O'Brien?
Oh, yeah. You know, that guy, he sent me a bunch of honey. And you know, I love honey. My goodness gracious, good stuff. And so when he won that contest last week, matter of fact, there was 3 of them that did. Now, Dave, I only sent out 2 hats. So somebody, if you haven't got your hat, you call me. But anyway, I sent him some stuff there to his new place there in Texas. Which reminds me, by the way, Dave, it is getting more and more extreme, hard, difficult. A big problem to get DVDs, hard copy DVDs, you know. So Dave, seeing in the future as Dave does, he put together digital stuff. And it makes it neat because you can go out and go out to where your mule is and watch me, and you can point the phone toward the mule and say, Steve Edwards says. You see how you can do that? Anyway, so let's say this. I had a lady that needed a DVD. I think her name was Linda, and we sent her a digital thing too as well. But I'm trying to remember who she was, so I can find her, get her a DVD, because we finally got some hard copies. But you know, that's gonna be something of the past, there, Dave.
Yeah, the DVD, it's a vintage item. It's hard to even buy a DVD player anymore. It is neat being able to you purchase something online right now and you can immediately watch it. I think that's great. I know some folks like the DVD. Folks, we do our best. But while we're waiting for those, if you're like, I'm waiting for my DVD. Yeah, we've got that digital. And Steve, next time you got a good joke, I've got the ready to go. So we'll I've got that queued up for the next joke, so I want to hear them. Let's see here. Hannah is watching. Dunalin, Florida, 72 degrees and cloudy. God bless America. And yes, you got us live today here, Hannah. We're glad to have you here. Hey, Linda, hello. 78 and sunny here in Portal, Arizona. Leslie, Decatur, Illinois, 60 and sunny. Herschel, I just saw you on YouTube comments. Herschel, it's good to have you here live. Williamsburg, Missouri, 70 degrees and sunny. Judy is watching from a 44 and degree, all the snow is melting area. So there we go. Hey, David Scholl is watching. That means we've gone international. He did the math, 88 degrees in Queensland, Australia. Hey, David, I had somebody message me. His name is David as well. And he says he's thinking about starting a breeding program. I gave him your Facebook and sent, and also a link to the program we did talking about your breeding program there in Australia. And so you might be hearing from someone named David. He's thinking about doing a breeding program as well. Kenny is watching from Patton, Missouri, 63 degrees and sunny. I'm enjoying the day. And here we go. Let's go back to Daniel. Daniel's original question. When I put the Surcingle and Martingale on my mule, he tends to just stand in a corner for 2 hours instead of moving around with that. He's asking what he should do different. His mouth is mostly quiet, but occasionally he'll play with the bit. His head isn't really low, but it's not naturally low either. He just stands there pretty quiet.
Okay, so all right, when it gets to that point to where the in other words, it's not bothering them. The martingale and the bit is not bothering them. You know it's bothering them when their head is elevated and they're moving their mouth a lot. Okay, now it's not so much quote bother as it is what's this thing in my mouth and what can I do to be quiet or feel good about, and what can I do to feel good? Because I want to be comfortable. Right now, I'm uncomfortable, and I'm going to move this bit around because normally I can control a bit, but right now I can't control this one. I'm trying to figure it out. We see that's it. With that martingale, with the string going through the bit, you're completely communicating with the bit, with the string. When the mule gets to where, hey, beautiful, good job. So when the mule gets to the point where he can start dropping his head and keeping his mouth quiet, then he can start moving around. Now, there are some mules, like this mule here, this gray mule, that's a very forward moving mule. Okay, notice how his neck comes up out of his shoulders. And if it wasn't for the rope halter on there, then his neck would come, he would have his head a lot higher. See, when you start out, you always start with the rope halter first because mules learn from their nose. Get that in your mind. So you have to do, there we are. We have to do the rope halter first. You know, hey, the other day, that new president of ours was had a commercial on our program as well. It's pretty cool. Anyway, so here's the deal. A lot of mules are forward moving. They want to go. Okay. Then you get some of them, hey, laid back, kick back, and I just soon sit in the corner and be good. Well, that's okay. All right, now let's get going. When they get to that point, you can take and start moving them around. I like to always go clockwise first. Why is that? It's the right brain. What's so important about that? Because the right brain usually has less done to it than the left brain. So left brain over here, right brain over here. Okay, looking from the back of the mule, right side, left side, off side, near side. Okay, so as you get your vocabulary correct, your terminology more correct, you're not going to be saying right or left. You're going to be saying off or near. So let's go on. So as the mule is going, I like to work on the right hand side, off side, so that I can actually teach the mule more there because less people have done less things there. The mule don't have any bother. He's not learning anything bad over there because what do? We bridle on the left hand side. We saddle from the left hand side. Listen, you need to bridle and saddle both sides. You need to do it both sides. So let's go on. Let's go back to this mule. Now that we see that he's comfortable and not worried about the bit, he's not chomping or anything like that. Now we'll move him around. So as we're moving him around, we're going to use our gate that we get in and out of. We're going to use it as our point of counting. So as we go around clockwise, we come by the gate and we see where his head is. If his head is up and his nose is sticking out, he's still worried. and doesn't have the idea of when I move, I have to drop my head, get my nose on the vertical, and then I know that that way I'm telling my herd leader, Daniel, that I am comfortable with the bit moving. Understand, folks, just because they're comfortable with the bit standing still doesn't mean they're comfortable with the bit moving. So how do we know? Again, we know they're uncomfortable, but the head's up, nose sticking out. So as he's moving around, I'm looking for 3 changes. Come around by the gate, I see where the head is. I come around by the gate again, I can see that the head has dropped a little bit. So I'm going to count that as 1. As I see him coming around again, come around the gate, he comes around, I see the head is still the same place. So I'm going to keep right on going. Don't go make another circle. Oh, now I see the head has dropped down a little bit. All right, so I'm going to take that as 1. As I see him come around, I'm going to take that, pardon me, I'm going to take that one as 2. I see him coming around, and I see him come around, and he drops his head a little bit more. That's 3. I'm done for the day. Okay? Now, I don't care if he walks. I don't care if he trots. Is it better off he walks? Yes, he is. But a lot of times when they're bothered, they will tend to trot. That's okay. Let him trot. Okay? Let him trot. He's the one who made that choice. So if he wants to trot, you're going to keep on going with him, making him go, making him go, making him go. Okay? When he starts to get into walking, now we can start counting. Okay? We have to count when they're walking to start with. When they're trotting, they're bothered and they're not willing to learn. So get that in your mind. Now, once I got 3 good to the right, and I go 3 good to the left, and that good is going to depend on you as to what you're saying to yourself. I like the way the mule makes the changes. Remember, you never go past the number 2 mark if you don't see an improvement from number 1. If you go number 3 again, now we're starting to build a foundation, you see? And when we change and go the opposite way around, the mule says, oh, okay, that's what I have to do to get a split second of rest, which is what he gets. A few seconds of rest. He turns and then goes counterclockwise. So you got the idea? Now, let's say we're going along good and we get our 3, 6, 9, 12 doing good. And so, okay, now let's go ahead and let's up the ante a little bit. Let's take some grocery bags, tie some baling twine to them, stuff them down in your pocket, 1 on each side, tie it to the surcingle. When you got it tied to the surcingle, the bags are still in your pockets, and you step back, the string is going to pull the bags out. And all of a sudden, a monster is going to be out there. And the mule is going to see that, and he's going to take off. Well, good. Let him take off, because here's the key thing. When he takes off, what does he do? He hits that halter. And when he hits that halter, what happens? It makes him uncomfortable. Same thing as you progress into the martingale. Always remember, don't just go to the martingale. Mules learn for the nose. So you start from adjust a rope halter and work your way to adjust a rope halter and the martingale. And then from the martingale and the rope halter to just the martingale. And eventually to your finish bit. Always remember that just because you've used a surcingle a few times don't mean you're done. You're going to be using that surcingle as a tune-up feature for the rest of that mule's life. That surcingle, that adjusted rope halter, and that mule rider's martingale are the best tools to keep your mule tuned up and keep him thinking. Okay. Now, in that martingale, you're going to ride outside with it. You're going to be on the side of a mountain to it as well. So there's the long and short of it, Dave.
Daniel, get back with us. Let us know what you got, what you experienced, what questions you got follow-up. Folks, I put a link in the comment section. Daniel brought up the Surcingle Mule Riders Martingale. The link I put is a bundle that Steve created that gives you all of the items that you need for surcingle training. You start with the surcingle. the Britchen, and a rope halter. And then you progress and you replace that rope halter with the Mule Rider's Martingale. And then eventually in your bit program, you'll eventually progress to where you can ride with a finished bit, the Trail Rider bit. But that bundle has everything you need for doing that surcingle training. And it almost works like magic. Daniel here has got one where there's a little bit of extra work done, need to do, but by and large, you just put that thing on and they start trying to figure it out. They start trying to realize, hey, if I put my head on the vertical, if I frame myself up, I'm comfortable. All right, that's where I want to be. So thank you for that question, Daniel. Appreciate it. Let's see. Heather is watching from a 73-degree Georgia. David Pengelly, 70 here today in Manchester, Georgia. Seven Springs is incredible. Everyone should try to ride there. Love my new mule. Tim says hello. Hello right back out there, Tim. I don't know if he speaks English yet or not, but we'll see how it goes. Heather, just got my first mule and learning so much. Good to hear from you, Heather. We're glad that you are here today. Hey, Yolanda, she's probably coming from somewhere over in Europe. Yolanda's all over the map. Weird weather here, both spiritual as visual. Yeah, you know what? That is the condition of living here on planet Earth. It is just weird. But Yolanda, you have normalized it. You are here with the mule and donkey people. We are the normal ones. Laura is watching from Moro, Oregon. Partly cloudy, very windy, 44 degrees. She's got a question, Steve. What can I do? My mule Oliver has started the bad habit of pawing when tied at the gate or in the trailer. He did not do this the first 8 months I have known him. This is a question we get a lot about pawing, Stephen. What would you say?
Okay, so pawing. What is that? It is, I want something. I don't want to stand here. I want a paw to get to grass because the snow's on top of it. I want a paw to break the ice so I can get a drink. I want a paw because I am not happy with it. That is kind of what's going on right now. I am not happy with standing here. I'm not happy with being in a trailer. So you know what? Can you fix it permanently? Nope. Nope. Part of life. They're pawing. Okay. They are communicating, just like I'm communicating with you now. So can we say, mule, don't paw in this spot? Yes. How do we do that? We take a heavy log chain, about 10 inches of it, heavy links, okay? And you can take and take yourself a small leather dog collar or small collar and put the strap through that, tie it above the knee, put one on each side, and then take some baling twine and tie from strap across the top of the neck down to strap. That way it keeps the chain from pulling off of the leg. And what happens is we're going to make him uncomfortable because when he paws, it's going to bang on his pastern. Okay, I mean on his cannonball. On each side. That's what it's going to do. Now, this is going to take, just like any other training, it's going to take some work on your part. And here's the work. When you put that on the legs at home, where he's pawing at the hitching rail, you sit over there and drink yourself a cold drink and just wait. And the split second, as close as you can, when that mule stops pawing, go over there and pet on him, pull each one of the hobbles off, and hang it up right there at the hitching post where you can see it. Okay? Now, when you do that, and he goes to pawing again, immediately take him, immediately put him back on, and all he's going to do is think, all right, at this spot, I'm going to really be made uncomfortable if I keep on doing what I'm doing. Now, I'm going to tell you, I can move that mule 10 inches to the right or to the left. It's a whole nother world, and he'll start pawing again. Okay? But you got to have the hobbles there, got the chain on each one of them, on each leg, and you got to take them off and put them on as quickly as you can so that the mule says, this is not a good spot. Okay, now, we can do it another way. We could take a couple used horseshoes, mule shoes. We could tie baling twine to them, have them hang down about 10 inches, and then tie some other baling twine up around above the knee on each leg, and go up over the top again with your long baling twine on each strap, on each piece of baling twine, and you can use baling twine and horseshoes. Okay, now that you can do mule shoes. You can do that, but remember, they are not going to quit pawing, and some of this has to do with you. All right, now it's your turn. What we tend to do as soon as we come in from a ride, we tend to immediately pull the saddle off. We tend to immediately take them to a corral. And a lot of times we'll go ahead and feed them right there. So guess what? Now the mule's saying, your timing's not good. That timing, hey, I'm supposed to be in my corral now. I'm going to paw. I'm going to, because why? Because that's what you did. When you get done from a ride, everybody, listen to this. This is important. You get done from a ride, you leave that mule saddled up. Half an hour, minimum. Minimum, okay? Now, there'll be a case or two where it might be a little bit less, but it's going to be a whole lot more. Now, then when he's quiet, he's paying attention, I'll pull the saddle off. I'll brush him down a little bit, and then I will leave him there another 15 minutes to a half an hour. Okay? That way I don't teach him, we're going to do this at so-and-so time, so many minutes, we're going to do that. Same thing with feeding time. You feed at the same time every day, pretty soon the mule's going to start pawing and say, hey, it's 5 o'clock. You're saying, no, I'm going to go riding. No, 5 o'clock, dinner time, clean my corrals, let's go. That's what they do, folks, okay? So it's not just the mule's fault. Do you understand this? Hear what she said, Dave? She said 8 months later it started becoming a problem. Guess who taught it? Guess who taught it? You did. These mules are fine, folks, until we teach them the bad habits, and we do it inadvertently. We don't think about it. Because how many of you, I'm going to see a show of hands down here, everybody's watching, how many of you, as soon as you come up, you immediately pull the saddle off, bridle, and throw them in the corral? Come on, don't fake me out. Tell me the truth. How many of you are doing that?
All right, while we get those coming in, I want to say hello to Fiona watching, expecting temps 98, which is 37 degrees Celsius, and southwestern Victoria, Australia. International, very, very dry. Jason watching from Chandler, Arizona. I'm broadcasting from Chandler, Arizona, Jason. Hey, Jason, can you hear me? Did you hear me, Jason? I was hollering. Heather says, Steve, we'll answer this question and we'll see what folks said about your question there. I put my new boy in the round pen for the first time the other day. He did not, hopefully it's a mule or a donkey and not a 10-year-old. He did not want to move away. I had to up my movement and taps pretty roughly before he finally decided he was uncomfortable. It didn't take him but a few minutes to catch on what I was asking. I've started several horses and going about it right now the same was I was a horse, but I do realize mules are quite different. Is this method recommended? As soon as he moved off my tap, I immediately released pressure. I just don't want to piss him off.
Just get to the point, just get around. Okay, listen, that's right. Now, when you say tap, I'm hearing, are you talking about tapping going sideways or turn on the forehand? Are you saying tapping to get out of your space? So you're riding or on the ground?
That's a good question. We'll see what she says. Edna, Spring Hill, Florida, 72 degrees and sunny. Andrea, Altoona, Florida, sunny and 60s. Here's the question. Does Edna want the 60s or does Andrea want the 70s? Because they're both in Florida. I wonder which one each would want. Leslie says, my mule stopped 3 times while trail riding. In the pasture, he relieved himself immediately. Do some mules not know how to urinate with a rider?
Yep, that's exactly true. And I can tell you that especially if you got heavy saddlebags on the back, it is difficult for a mule to go to the bathroom. Okay, you put them heavy saddlebags back there, you're going to have a problem. Okay, and you could develop asseteria, and that's not a very pretty thing. So what I usually do when I have a new mule and he's kind of having a hard time figuring out taking a leak with somebody on him, I usually stand up, lean forward a little bit, and take a little pressure off of that muscle area where the kidneys are hanging.
Awesome. Good question. Thanks, Leslie. Cowboy Ken, Connecticut, 43 degrees and beautiful. Let's see here. Yolanda says, do you know that on TikTok, I try tapping like crazy to get you more viewers? Do it, Yolanda. We've had more and more viewers watching on TikTok. Of course, our president loves TikTok and he kept it around even though it was about to get banned. So we're on the TikTok and you can find us there. Yeah, some of the videos that we got, they get a few thousand watches. Most of them get 400 or 500. Yolanda, we appreciate the work. Keep at it. You could be our unofficial TikTok ambassador and our unofficial Netherlands ambassador. You're just racking up the titles. Ivy says, hello from Maine, 34 degrees and cloudy. Nearly a heat wave after the last few weeks of low temperature and high winds. Steve, I've got a question here from Ivy. Says, I'm looking at a lovely big mule that has a canker. Can you tell me about it? We've never talked about canker before, Steve. Canker disease, canker condition?
Okay, so it's the canker on the hoof, because if it's on the bottom of the sole, then that's one type of canker. Then you can have another one inside the mouth as well, like a canker sore, okay? But you're going to have to tell me, be a little bit more specific and tell me where this is.
Let's see here. All right, Johnson says, Steve, what do you think about using a stand on the legs to help hold them while trimming the hooves? Have you used a stand, and how did your mules react to it?
Absolutely, absolutely. I know the guy who originally designed the stand, and it's got a nice band in the middle that the foot can stay in there really nice. But absolutely, I trained up at the Phoenix Zoo. We had Percheron mules, we had Belgian mules, Percheron horses, and that sort of thing. And those little girls didn't wait. The caregivers that were there with those livestock. We started out with 12 mules and ended up with about 100 horses and mules in a multi-million-dollar program there at Phoenix Zoo. So anyway, yes, we actually teach the mules to pick up their foot, which you all have seen before, but then we teach them to lay them in the stand and be quiet. Now remember, the come along hitch is always your tool for doing your training with. So make them uncomfortable when they do what you don't want to do. Make them comfortable, be quiet when they're doing exactly what you want. But yes, use that stand. It's the greatest thing in the world for your back. Man, keep doing that. Good, betcha. Good for you.
Awesome.
Hey, did you see the picture I sent you of David Pengali's new mule?
Yeah, you want me to bring that up?
Well, I mean, kind of. If we get time, maybe toward the end or whenever,
Yeah, I'll get it brought up here. Let's go back to Heather. She was talking about the tapping, and so she says, let's see. She says tapping to get him out of my space.
Okay. When I do that, something like that, I try not to touch above the chest. Okay, when I do that. Okay, now don't get me wrong. If I have to, I'll do it another way. But if you tap, I usually use the edge of my boot, tapping on the cannon bone. That will move them out of the way quicker, because here's what happens, folks. When you move your hands to do this, pretty soon they start getting head shy. And pretty soon, every time you move your hand, they want to try to get away from you. So don't do that. Use the edge of your boot to tap them. If you got the come along hitch, that's even better. See, here's what happens, folks. Now, she said she's only had the mule a short time. I believe, is that right? Here's what happens. Dealers, traders, guys who deal in horses and mules know that you like to pet Fluffy. And they know that if Fluffy comes up in your lap, you're going to pet and scratch him, think he's the greatest thing in the world. You won't even know what to think about and ask questions about him being good, bad, or ugly. All right? So here's the deal. Okay? What they do is, I say little tricks of the trade. What they tend to do is they tend to feed them carrots and stuff. And then the mule comes in looking for the carrots and stuff around you. You think he wants to be your buddy. No, what they're doing is that cheater called a trader, okay, does that to little things like that to get you to be able to buy that mule. Yes, sir. So use the edge of your boot, all right, and that will tap them out. If you got your come along, that's even better. Tap them with the come along.
Thanks for the question, Heather. Tamar's watching from Mount Marshall, Queensland, Australia. Warm and dry here. Very, very good to have you here. Appreciate it. Let's see. Myra says, hey, guys. Hey, Myra. Good to have you here. Linda says, so I'm weaning the mini donkey from Mama and hoping he won't try to nurse after a week or a week or 10 days, because other than selling either way, they'll have to be back together with 2 horses and a Molly mule. So am I seeing a question in there, Linda? Is there something specific that you're looking for? Let me know. Let's see here.
Let's go back to that question.
What's that?
Let's go back to that question a minute.
Okay.
Now, just because that baby hasn't nursed for a couple months doesn't mean when he sees Mama, it won't go back to nursing. Now, if Mama doesn't have a bag, in other words, if her teats or her area where she holds her milk, if it is dried up, then Mama will tend to want to kick the mule, the donkey, the baby out of the way because it hurts her to do that. See, so you're, in order to make sure that the baby's not going to go back to nursing, make sure Mama is dried up. That's very, very important right there. All right. Now, here's the other thing. It sounds like me, you don't have that donkey in a separate corral with everybody else. They need to be separate. Every animal needs to be in his stall, especially at feeding time. So there's another little thing for you.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's see. Jane says, we use stands also, and they work great. Myra, there we go. From SoCal, sunny and temps in the 80s. Ivy gives clarity here. The canker is on the inside of the right hind. It has been trimmed and dressed for 3 weeks. It has not improved.
Yeah, that's, especially you probably got a lot of mud and this sort of thing. Makes it a lot tougher. Here's what I would do, okay? I like to use bleach. Take and be careful, because you know what bleach is going to do if it spills on your clothes. So you want to be able to have some old clothes you don't worry about that on. But here's the deal. I like to use bleach, just straight bleach, not watered down. Take a tablespoon or so of bleach and pour it on there. It does a good job of drying out. The downside of a hoof canker is, especially if you got a lot of moisture, a lot of mud and stuff, it takes a long time for it to heal. Try to get that mule, number 1, in a dry spot where it stays there the majority of the time. Number 2, every once a day, use the Clorox on that canker, and that'll help dry it up.
Awesome. Okay, let's see here. Johnson says, Sherman says, I rode my mule the other day and left the come-along rope on her, and she did everything right. I didn't have to touch the rope. She knew it was on her. The rope halter doesn't get the respect like the come-along rope. Yeah, this is something, Steve, that I noticed. So when we were working together back in the early, mid-2010s, late 2010s, we talked a lot about the rope halter and some about the come-along rope. And then over the course of time into the next decade, we kind of talked more about the come-along rope, a little bit less about the rope halter, but the rope halter still got a lot of play. Well, over the last 5 years, we've spoken the majority of our training time about the come-along rope versus the rope halter, not saying there's no purpose for the rope halter, but saying there are specific purposes for the rope halter versus the come-along rope being your all-around best communication tool. And I just want to say, this is that has been me watching you continue to evolve over the course of the last 15 years, continuing to learn, not saying, I learned this in 1999 and I've been doing it this way ever since, but you've really evolved in that. Can you tell me a little bit about why you made that change, what it was that kind of came to your attention that it's I really need to lean more heavily into the come-along rope versus the rope halter?
Well, in all actuality, I use that come along hitch more than anything else, in the prior, okay, in the past. But it's also called a war bridle. And as you know, you've had a few people say, "Oh, you're being harsh." So it's almost kind of like Dave, like I've been kind of slowly bringing it into place where people can see it happening and see it going. Okay, I'm seeing a whole different mule rider today than what I did before. The mule rider before was a horse rider that had been focusing on horses. The mule rider that we've been able touch, to touch, and that's thanks to your technology doing it that way, is we now have a lot of new mule riders that we are touching. Okay, so I want them to see, really, it's kind of like my saddles. When I first sold my saddles, they looked like everybody else's saddle. They had leather billets on them and this sort of thing, because I didn't want to make changes real quick. And everybody going, wow, I don't like this. I'd rather go back to yada yada. Anyway, so it's just been kind of changing. So what I actually am doing now is what I actually done 25, 30 years ago, more of. But I was slowly trying to go into the equine world with some of what they knew, but added some more of some other stuff, like this is what you really need to be doing. Does that make sense to you, Dave?
Yeah, that does. That does make sense, and I appreciate that. And just goes to show, here I am spending all this time with you. You say these things, and just kind of goes over my head. That's why we do this program, because we can say the same thing over and over and over. We can transition people into a way of doing things over time. And you're just not in a point where you're hearing it. And it's not that you're dumb. It's not that you're dense. It's not that you're unable to get it. It's your mind isn't in that place. Your mind isn't thinking about those things right now. And then all of a sudden, when these things become aware to you and you're looking for a particular result, you start asking the questions and you realize, oh, okay, that's what he was talking about all that time. That makes a lot of sense. I appreciate that. Andrea says, I'm happy we got rain this morning and now sunny.
Oh,
Temps are good. God is good. Praising him for the rain. That sounds like a good worship song right there, Andrea. Write
yeah.
it. Let us know what you think. Maybe we'll get it recorded. Yolanda says, I'm cramping my finger from tapping on the TikTok. Y'all get over on TikTok and help Yolanda. She's putting in the work right there for the Mule Kingdom. Let's see. Heather says, sorry to take up all the questions. Don't worry about it, Heather. I do have one more. My horse mare is due to foal in April. How would I go about introducing the new foal to the mule? He will have been here about 2 months when the foal is born. He gets along great with everyone else in the herd. Not at all dominant, but he also holds his own. Are they typically super territorial since he will be established in the herd? I do plan to have her separated and sharing a fence line for at least a week, but when it's time, how should I introduce them back together?
All right, I'm going to give you a sad story. Okay, my wife, we had a nice horse, and we raised a baby out of this horse, and we had metal corrals that had about 3 foot openings, three tiered, roughly about 5 foot tall. And I would turn the mules out in this one little small corral area. And this was years ago. We're talking almost 30 years ago. And I would turn them out in there with surcingles and this sort of thing. Well, when they had that baby, they kept wanting to come over and look at it. And this is hard to tell you, but they actually grabbed that baby, dragged him through the other side, and stomped him to death. Susan's little horse. And I have seen them do the same thing with other. I know they've done other things in the past with calves, with goats, and this sort of thing. Do not put any of your baby calves or goats or things like this in with a mule. They may go a little while pretty good, and more than often, I've seen it. I've not done it simply because I've not practiced it. But when you put your mule in with your calves, they will mother up to a calf and they will keep the mother away so that they can have the calf to their own. Okay, and in doing so, they actually end up killing it, not only starving it, sometimes kicking it and things like this. Now, you can go online and you can click on Brazilian cowboy working cattle. You will see a Brazilian cowboy down working a calf, and the mother trying to get to the calf, but the mule is working the calf, or the mother trying to keep the mother away from the calf. Now, you may think it's training, but it's naturally what they do. And so the mulero from Brazil, the cowboy, knows that. And so he would get off and can work his calf, doctor it, whatever needs to be done, while his mule naturally keeps the mother away. Okay? So I said all that to say this: keep your baby away from these guys. Don't even a corral is not enough room. It needs to be a solid wall so that the baby can't get to one of the others, because if that mule smells it, he'll grab it, pull it through, and kill it.
That's kind of what I thought you were going to say, but we haven't had that question specifically in all the years we've done this. So I really appreciate you taking the time to ask that question, Heather. And if you have any follow-ups, let me know. Eric is listening from New Mexico. Let's see here. Yolanda is showing some love for the Buckaroo Light. I still have no regrets that I got the Buckaroo Light. So there you go, folks. Get yourself a Buckaroo Light. Live large and in charge like Yolanda does with her Spanish mule. Grayson is watching. Late as usual, checking in from Virginia. Linda from Conway, New Hampshire. Winter is leaving. Some sun today and in the 40s. Theodore says, hey, from Missouri. Beautiful day here. He's showing off. Ted, you're showing off all the beauty out there in Missouri. Tamar says, I had bought a mule several years ago and had been told it killed a couple of newborn foals. Yeah, once you hear that story, you start to realize that they're out there in plenty, right?
Yeah. Now, was that Linda earlier? Linda Gordon?
Heather, let's see. Well, yeah, Linda Gordon is here. Yeah.
Okay. Linda, your DVD is on its way.
There you go.
The doctoring DVD is going out tomorrow.
Awesome. Very good. Hey, Steve, I've got another question here. This one I asked you a couple weeks ago, but I think this one was more articulate, and I'd love to hear your response to this. This one came from Katie. She says, I read about how, let's see. Yeah. How can an animal that evolved to eat grass end up needing to be kept away from grazing? I read about how some horses and ponies and often donkeys will get sick or obese if allowed to graze, that some need to be kept on dry lots and dirt. I believe it. Not saying it isn't true, but I'm wondering, how is this true? It seems like grass would be the most natural and therefore healthiest diet. Is it that they were desert animals and there wasn't as much grass? Or that the native grasses have much less sugar or carbs? Or is it the exercise, modern and domestic situations, or something else? I thought this was a great question, really well articulated, and I wanted to hear your response to this one, Steve.
Yeah, so here we are, folks. If I have been out in the Wickenburg area working cattle, I've seen the wild horses, I've seen the wild donkeys, and I've also seen the grass founder, especially on the donkeys, along the neck, tops of the ribs, and this sort of thing. And I've seen the grass founder, and not on all of them, but there are some of them, especially. But here's the thing: they're running free out there, but yes, they're exercising, and yes, they cover miles every week. We don't have that. Okay, number one, today's fluffy donkey and mule, today's fluffy doesn't have the work that we used to have to turn them out and graze them all night and all day. Okay, now on the ranches I've worked at, all of those horses were turned out in a pasture at night so they can graze all night. Why is that? Because that feed gave them energy to go out and ride and work cattle. To get them to come in, we always had our morals ready. This is a feed bag, a nose bag. It's called a morale, is one of the name for it. Nose bag's another, feed bag's another. Anyway, they would come in, we would put that on them. They would eat their grain while we were saddling, while we were getting ready, and then we would go. All right. But you see, they were working. They had things to do so they could burn off those carbohydrates. Okay. Now you look at you and I. Look how our carbohydrates has now dropped. I tell folks all the time, I woke up one morning, my chest fell to my drawers. Yes, sirree. Right around my belt line, and it's not a spare tire. And you girls, you can take both hands and put it back there. You understand where your extra weight has gone, right? Hey, yes, sirree. So anyway, here's the deal. Why? Because we don't give them the work that they need to have. Next thing is, not all hay and grass is good for the animals. That's why you do a hair follicle test. That's why you do a blood test to see. Now, like you and I, okay, now they do a blood test. They can tell me what I'm short on, zinc or whatever it is. Now, my wife can eat salad till the cows come home. I can't. I got to have protein. Give me meat, okay? And I will do fine. If I eat just lettuce and salads and stuff for a while, I almost get sick, okay? Because I need that protein. So different bodies, different things. So going back, the answer is you're not giving Fluffy enough work to feed them that you always want to feed them to turn them out into a pasture, okay? You want to feed them according to their work level. Now, as you get older, you don't work as hard, but you seem to eat the same, and I'm guilty. Okay. And then when that happens, our chest drops to our drawers, and you're all to your behinds.
Oh, hey, where is it? There we go. Okay, let's see here. Heather says, that's exactly what I worried about. Thank you. I will keep them completely separated. Good for you, Heather. Thanks for letting us weigh in on that. Nikki is watching. Good to have you here, Nikki. I have a mammoth that wants to pick up the minis by the neck. They are separate now. The problem is real. Don't risk mixing big and small. That's exactly what we were saying. Once you hear one story, all of the stories start coming out of the cracks and you start realizing it's a real problem. I'm really glad that Heather brought that up. Let's see here. Ivy says, I have heard that you can use a donkey to help train a foal to lead. What are your thoughts on that? What does the harness look like for this?
Okay, so in Mexico, and I've never personally done it here in Arizona, but and I know they used to do it. But what they used to do is they put a bowline around a donkey's neck. Now, bowline doesn't get tight when you put the loop around, so it's like a loop around the neck. They tie a bowline knot so it doesn't get tight, and then that donkey knows that taking that calf, it's usually a calf that they're leading, knows that all he's got to do is go 3 to 5 miles down there, and they get to where there's a corral and there's grain and this sort of thing. And there's some other cowboys there, and those donkeys drag that calf down to the corrals, and it gentles them down. Okay, but they'll do that because they want to get to that feed. So yes, I've seen it done uh, with colts as well. It's not what I would do. I would take and spend time with a come along rope, and I would make sure it was done right. It's one thing pulling on them. You don't want to pull on a mule or a donkey. What do you always hear me say? Bump, bump, bump. It'll get you far more than a pull.
Steve, next question comes in from Johnny. Says, what is the best way to socialize your mule to new people and consent to new people touching and handling them? This mule has a very good disposition and he's smart. He's just shy of new people.
Well, and that's, some mules are like that. You take my wife's mule, Stacy. She loved everybody. Rarely did she have someone that she didn't want to spend any time with. Okay, so the best thing you do is always have anybody, including yourself. Your approach should always be at the shoulder. That is where you scratch and pet. Now, think about this. You take when two animals, two equines come together and they're going nose to nose. Wee! I'm the biggest one. Wee! No, I'm the biggest one. And they even get the pawing and fussing with one another. Someone will have to be the top of the pecking order, and that needs to be you. So if you're going to have a new person come up, no petting on the face and nose. Put the come along hitch on, pet on the shoulder only. Okay? No petting on the head and the nose. And that way you'll keep them from getting hurt. That's your biggest thing you want to be concerned about.
Awesome. Thanks for the question, Johnny. Appreciate that. This is actually really funny. We should do this, Steve. Marcia says, "When are you going to come out with a fluffy T-shirt?"
Oh, now you know what?
That's a good idea.
We should probably think more about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna send a message to my graphics guy, and I'm gonna say, "Hey, give me a fluffy T-shirt." We'll see what we can come up with. Marcia, I love that. If we do it, we'll send you a free shirt, Marcia. That's a great idea.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Let's see, Yolanda. Yolanda has tapped the screen 7,100 times on TikTok. Call Guinness. Let's get Guinness out there to measure. Oh, man. Now she says, "I must give my fingers some rest from cramping." Yolanda, you are one of a kind. We are blessed. We are blessed to have you, Yolanda. That's awesome.
Hey, Yolanda. I know you said you had some. Well, Dave and I wanted to come to the Netherlands and visit with you. And you said you don't want to do it because our government is lousy. Well, how would you like to have our new government? What do you think about our new government?
Hey, there you go, Yolanda. Hey, Sonia sent in a message, Steve. "Hi there, I had a question. I purchased a 20-year-old retired trail mule. She is in great shape, and I would like to keep it that way. On one of your videos, you said they are not eating anything, or they were to eat nothing but out hay. Well, that's not really available in my area. What else is a good alternative I can use? I've had her on alfalfa for a few months because she is housed with horses, but they usually are all on grass in the summer." So I'm not sure what video she's talking about, Steve. But I mean, really, we don't. You want a good hay. We like to buy the hay if we can, not the first cut, but then we buy all that we need for that season if possible, because all hay is different. And then we use the pellet and feed according to use. And then very rarely will we use the alfalfa just because it's so hot. You'll use a rolled oat. You'll feed that, as a supplement, I think is what you've said in the past.
Well, no, your roll oats, you really don't want to feed a roll oat because what that is a fattening
Okay.
grain.
Whole oats.
Yeah, whole oats.
Whole oats. That's what it was. I got it mixed up.
Yeah.
So I'm going to send her the feed video, but is there anything else you want to say specifically to this?
Well, I always say if you're going to feed hay, test it so that you know what's in the hay. It's really important. Okay, you cannot believe what happens when you have your hay tested. You wouldn't believe the amount of rat parts in there, snake parts, and it creates a colic situation. Okay, so you want to have your hay tested. Do not feed alfalfa. Dave, I sent you some information I found on the internet showing those golf ball and softball size minerals that end up being in the animal's urinary tract and killing them. We'll have to sometime do that. Matter of fact, we talked about we actually talked about it on webinars and had quite a bit of feedback on it, but it's not good. We need to get some pictures of that sometime or another and show that up where folks can see that.
Yeah, I'll have to find it. I have it for I have the feed and forage analysis report that David Pengelly had sent in, which shows what the Extension Center produces with a hair follicle sample or blood sample. I'll see if I can find that image that you're talking about there, Steve.
Okay.
Let's see here. Yolanda says there is only one government for me, and that is Jesus Christ. There you go. Can't disagree with her.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
All right, let's see
You
here.
have to
Next
also remember,
question.
Yolanda, that First Timothy is very explicit, and it says that God chooses who's going to be the governing authorities. God chooses. Okay, so now if you got to understand that blessed is a nation whose God is the Lord. And there you have your Sunday school lesson.
Okay, so
So
let's see. Oh, where I just clicked out of it. Where was the? Oh, here we go. Oh yes, oh yes. Epic sent in a message asking, "Can you jump with your saddle?"
why would I want to jump? Okay, to answer your question, yes. Okay, and then what I mean by that is this: when we come to a fence and we're chasing a mountain lion or something like that, we can throw my jacket over the fence or something like that, and that's the cue, along with another bump, to tell my mule to jump over the fence and go to the other side. Yes, that's what we've trained them in the past. So, as far as the actual jumping, like you do dressage and things like this, I never would suggest doing that. Okay, I don't like that anyway. That type of jumping over pedestals and this sort of thing. Not many of them horses last very long. Their front ends are gone because of that. And it's a wonderful sport. And I know they spend a lot of money to keep their animals healthy from that. But it's not anything I would do. Okay. Can you do uh, chasing barrels? Yes, barrel racing. Can you do gymkhana stuff? Yeah, with the breeching, saddles and all. Absolutely.
Okay, that's a great question. I appreciate that. Thanks, Epic. All right, Steve, take a look at this one right here. This is pretty fun. I'm bringing it up right now. Here we go.
There he is.
How about that?
Yes, sir. That's a David Pingale himself, the coffee man, the best coffee in the world. Matter of fact, I just got done ordering some up, and he sent it to me. So the past couple of days, I've been drinking come along coffee. Yeah, so there he is. He got this new mule. He's like a lot of other people. They go online, they look at this mule, they look at that mule, they do different things. And even as much as David watched me and has listened to me, and I've been to his house there in Georgia, and we talked about it, even as much, he still makes mistakes. That's because we're human, but his wife won't let him forget it. And that's another story, right, David? So here's the deal. David went through a couple mules before he come to this one. All right. I always tell everybody, if you've got a mule you're interested in, send me a picture, send me the videos, and I'll tell you what my personal opinion is on that mule. Okay, I'll tell you, and then you can go from there. So Dave now has the love of his life. Got a little mule here that it just does everything. Side pasture on the forehand, and yeah, he went to Alabama to get this mule. A very good friend of mine had the mule that I knew about, and that's the whole thing, folks. I will not tell you where to go buy a mule. I won't. But if I know the mule and I know the rider, I'll say it's a pretty good idea to maybe get the two of you together. Because the biggest problem is this, folks. If you can't smell him and you can't touch him, you don't want to mess with him. It's not like buying a saddle where a saddle's going to be the same. That mule's got a mind of his own. Some of these mules, okay, will work just fine with almost anybody. Okay. And this mule here is made in heaven for my old buddy here, Pingale. And I think his wife will be happy with the situation too. She saw the mule and fell in love with it. So there we are. We got a trail riding pair there.
It's pretty cool. Love getting those photos in there. Let's see here. Steve, do you have time for maybe two more questions, or do you need a jet?
Well, yeah, we need to get going because on my
Oh, you've got
Tuesdays I'm
training
usually
tonight.
training. Yeah,
Yep, yep,
training
yep.
on
Okay,
fire.
well then we'll save them for next week, folks. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Sure do love spending time with you. Be on the lookout. While we were broadcasting, I couldn't finish the registration for our next webinar. So be on the lookout for an email. I'm going to be sending that out. I'm going to make it real easy for you to sign up. And then you come and hang out with us in mid-April. But if you want to connect with Steve before then, outside of these Tuesday events, he's going to be in Alabama at the end of March. And then he's traveling up from Alabama to Columbia, Tennessee at the beginning of April. It's going to be a lot of fun. You got time to get your arrangements in order so that you can get out there and make a memory. Steve, anything you want to say before we're all done?
Nope. I think we need to keep on praying for the United States. Don't just quit, okay? Because that's one of the problems we've had. Like when Reagan was in place, all of a sudden us Christians, we got lackadaisical, and we kept praying. We quit praying, and when we do that, then things. Praying makes changes in this life. So hey, blessings to you. We'll see you when we see you.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye now.